Hana Kim stared at the red marks covering her exam paper. Failed. Again. The holographic display floated in front of her face, showing her score, 32%. She had gotten the same question wrong for the third time this month. The question was simple enough. A ship from an unknown species approaches your vessel. They do not respond to communication. What is your first action? Hana had written what made sense to her. Establish defensive position, charge weapons, demand identification, and prepare for combat if they don't comply within 30 seconds. The correct answer, apparently, was to withdraw to a safe distance, broadcast friendship messages in all known languages, and wait patiently for up to 6 hours. 6 hours. Hana wanted to scream. Around her, the other cadets were celebrating their scores. Rethon, the crystalline Avixian who sat 2 seats away, was showing off his perfect marks. His body sparkled with pride, literally. His species glowed different colors based on emotion, and right now he was practically a disco ball of smugness. Another failure, Deathworlder? Rethon's voice chimed like glass bells. It would have been pretty if he wasn't such a jerk. Perhaps your primitive brain cannot grasp advanced tactical thinking. Hana bit her tongue. Fighting wasn't allowed on academy grounds. She had learned that the hard way in her first week when another cadet had shoved her, and she had put him in a chokehold within 2 seconds. The disciplinary hearing had lasted 3 hours. Apparently, self-defense was excessive here. Instructor Velmoth entered the classroom on his 4 arms, moving with the grace of someone who had never known fear. His species, the Quilarians, were natural diplomats. They could regrow limbs, so combat held no real terror for them. Lucky them. Cadets, settle down, Velmoth said, his voice a gentle rumble. I trust you all performed adequately on today's examination. Except perhaps for Cadet Kim. The classroom fell silent. Hana felt 30 pairs of alien eyes on her. Some species didn't even have eyes, but she felt their attention anyway. Cadet Kim, please remain after class. The rest of you are dismissed. Great. Another lecture? The other students filed out, some giving her sympathetic looks, others smirking. Rethon made sure to float past her desk slowly, his crystalline form catching the light just to show off. When they were alone, Velmoth approached her desk. Up close she could see the intricate patterns on his purple skin, the way his 4 arms moved independently, each one capable of complex tasks. Hana, he said, using her first name, which was never a good sign. This is your 3rd failure this month. Your physical scores are exceptional. Your combat simulations are disturbing but effective. However, your tactical thinking remains, and I quote from the headmaster, barbaric and unsuitable for peacekeeping operations. Sir, with respect, my answers work. Work? Velmoth's arms spread wide. You advocated for opening fire on an unresponsive vessel. That vessel might have had communication failures. They might have been peaceful explorers. Your solution would have started a war. Or prevented an ambush, Hana countered. Sir, on Earth we have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. My answer prepares for the worst. And that is precisely the problem. Velmoth sighed, a sound like wind through trees. The galaxy operates on trust, Cadet Kim. We have had peace for 6,000 years because we choose diplomacy over violence. Your world is different. That was the polite word. Hana had heard the other words. Savage, primitive, Deathworld. Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, the highest danger rating in the galactic catalog. Most species couldn't survive there for a week. The gravity alone would crush a Quilarian's bones. The diseases would kill an Avixian in days. The predators would hunt down anyone else but humans. Humans were born there. Humans thrived there. I understand, sir, Hana said, though she didn't. Not really. I hope you do. The Academy Board is considering your placement here. Another failure and you may be sent home. Velmoth's voice was gentle but firm. I suggest you study the approved tactical manuals. Learn to think like a peacekeeper, not a warrior. He left her alone in the classroom. Hana gathered her things slowly. Her tablet, her notes, her Earth flag patch that she wore on her uniform even though it wasn't regulation. Woojin Park, the human embassy attaché, had given it to her before she started at the academy. Remember where you come from, he had said. But learn to fit in. She was trying. She really was. The walk back to her dormitory took her through the main corridor of Harmony 7. the massive orbital station that housed the Galactic Peacekeepers Academy. The corridors were beautiful, all flowing curves and soft lights. Nothing like the harsh angles and bright fluorescence of Earth stations. She passed a group of security officers, which was odd. There were usually 2 guards per sector, but she counted 6. They looked nervous, their hands near their weapons. Stun weapons, of course. The Academy didn't believe in lethal force. Hana's instincts, honed by 18 years on humanity's Deathworld, started prickling. Something was wrong. She made it to her dormitory without incident, but the feeling wouldn't leave. She tried to study, reading through the tactical manuals that Velmoth had recommended. They all said the same thing: wait, observe, communicate, retreat if necessary. Never attack first. Never assume hostility. It went against everything her survival training had taught her. Around midnight, she heard something. A scream. High-pitched and terrified, it echoed through the ventilation system. Hana was on her feet instantly, her body reacting before her brain caught up. She opened her door and looked out into the corridor. Empty. Quiet. She activated her communicator. "Security, this is Cadet Kim in Section 7. I heard a scream from the training sector. Is everything all right? Static. Then, all systems normal, Cadet Kim. Please return to your quarters." It was likely equipment malfunction. Equipment didn't scream. Hana should have gone back to bed. She should have trusted security. That's what a good cadet would do. But she was from Earth, where trusting the wrong thing got you killed. She pulled on her boots and stepped into the corridor. The next morning, Instructor Velmoth didn't show up for combat drills. Hana stood with the other cadets in the training bay waiting. Velmoth was never late. He had once told them that punctuality was a sign of respect. After 20 minutes, another instructor arrived, a thin Gravithian named Phalax. He moved like liquid mercury, his metallic body flowing across the floor. "Cadets," he announced, his voice heavy. "Instructor Velmoth has taken medical leave. I will be supervising your training until further notice." Medical leave. Just like that. No explanation. Hana's instincts were screaming now. After class, she walked back through the main corridor, retracing her steps from the night before. She found what she was looking for near the entrance to the restricted maintenance sector. A small stain on the floor, already cleaned but not quite gone. Purple. Quilarian blood was purple. She knelt down, pretending to tie her boot, and touched the stain, still slightly damp. Something had happened to Velmoth. Something bad. And Hana was certain the Academy was lying about it. She stood up and saw Rithon watching her from across the corridor, his crystalline body flickering with suspicious orange light. "What are you doing, Deathworlder?" he asked. Hana met his gaze. "Looking for the truth." "The truth," Rithon said slowly, "is that you should mind your own business." He floated away, but Hana noticed something. His color was orange, the Avixian shade for fear. Whatever was happening on Harmony 7, everyone was scared, everyone except her. 3 days passed, and 2 more instructors vanished. First, it was Instructor Malvex from the engineering department. She was a tentacled Hydrian who could breathe both air and water. She disappeared during a night shift in the reactor level. The official statement said she had been called away on family emergency. Then Instructor Kolvan, a massive Thunderian who taught weapons theory, didn't show up for his morning class. The Academy claimed he had transferred to another station. Hana didn't believe any of it. She was sitting in the cafeteria, pushing her food around her plate, when someone sat down across from her. She looked up to see Woojin Park, the human embassy attaché. He was in his 40s with gray streaking through his black hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. "You look like hell," he said in Korean, the first time Hana had heard her native language in weeks. "You too," she replied in the same tongue. Woojin glanced around the cafeteria, making sure no one was close enough to hear. Most aliens couldn't understand human languages anyway. "Earth wants you pulled from the Academy." "What? Why?" 3 instructors missing in less than a week. Station security is in full panic mode. And guess who's the most likely suspect? Hana felt her stomach drop. The human. The human from the Deathworld who keeps failing tactical exams because she's too violent. Woojin leaned forward. "They think you might be involved. Some of the instructors are pushing for an investigation. That's insane." I know that." Earth knows that. But the Academy board is scared, and scared people look for easy answers. You're the easiest answer they have. Hana set down her fork. I'm not leaving. Hana, I didn't do anything wrong. If I run now, it proves I'm guilty. Besides, she lowered her voice, I think I know where the instructors went. Or at least I have an idea. She told him about the scream, the purple blood, the increased security. She told him about the maintenance sector and how it had been sealed off with no explanation. Wu Jin listened carefully, his face unreadable. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. If you're right and there's something dangerous on this station, you should let security handle it. Security that's pretending nothing is wrong? Security that's lying about what happened? Hana shook her head. No, something's hunting on this station and everyone's too scared to admit it. And you want to hunt it back. I want to find the truth. Wu Jin sighed. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device, sliding it across the table. Emergency beacon. You press it and I'll come running with a full extraction team. Promise me you'll use it if things go bad. Hana picked up the beacon and slipped it into her pocket. I promise. That night she broke into the maintenance sector. It wasn't hard. She had learned lockpicking as a survival skill on Earth. Most academy locks were designed to keep out honest people, not determined ones. The door opened with a soft click and Hana slipped inside. The maintenance corridors were darker than the main station, lit only by emergency strips. The air was colder too, and Hana's breath made small clouds in front of her face. She moved quietly, her soft-soled boots making no sound on the metal floor. She found the nest 20 minutes later. It was in an abandoned storage room, tucked away in the deepest part of the sector. The door had been torn off its hinges, the metal twisted like paper. Inside, the walls were covered in some kind of organic substance, slick and dark. The temperature was warmer here, almost hot, and the smell was terrible. Like meat left out in the sun. In the center of the room was a pile of equipment all mangled and destroyed. Hana recognized a Calarian uniform, torn and stained with purple blood. Velmoth's uniform. Her hand went to the emergency beacon in her pocket, but before she could press it, she heard a voice behind her. Step away from there, slowly. She turned to find Rethan floating in the doorway, his crystalline body glowing bright red with anger and fear. What are you doing here? Hana asked. Following you. I knew you were up to something. Rethan's light pulsed. This is a crime scene. You're tampering with evidence. Evidence of what? The Academy says nothing happened. The Academy is protecting the students from panic. The Academy is getting people killed. Hana pointed at the nest. Look at this. Something made this. Something took Velmoth and the others, and security is doing nothing. Rethan drifted closer, his light dimming as he looked at the organic material on the walls. What is this? I don't know, but it's not from any species I recognize. They stood in silence, both staring at the horrible evidence in front of them. Finally, Rethan spoke, his voice quiet and frightened. My roommate didn't come back tonight. Jaxic. He went to the library after dinner and he never returned. I reported it to security and they said he probably fell asleep in the study hall. But he didn't, I checked. Hana looked at the crystalline alien, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not a smug know-it-all, but a scared kid far from home just like her. We need to tell someone, Rethan said. Who? Security won't listen. The Academy is covering this up. The headmaster. Corvesh. He's telepathic. He'll know we're telling the truth. It was a good idea. Headmaster Corvesh was a mind weaver, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They could read thoughts and emotions. He would know they weren't lying. They left the maintenance sector together and made their way to the administrative level. The headmaster's office was at the top of the station, with windows that looked out at the stars. When they arrived, Corvesh was waiting for them. He was an ancient being, his body more energy than matter, floating inside a containment suit that let him interact with the physical world. His eyes, if they were eyes, glowed with soft blue light. Cadet Kim. Cadet Rethan. I have been expecting you. They told him everything. The disappearances, the nest, the blood, the missing roommate. Corvesh listened without interrupting, his presence filling the room like a gentle pressure. When they finished, he spoke in a voice like distant thunder. I must verify your claims. Cadet Kim, I will need to enter your mind. Do you consent? Hana hesitated. Having someone inside your head was an intimate thing, frightening even. But she needed him to believe her. Yes. The headmaster's consciousness touched hers, and suddenly she was reliving memories, running through the forests of Earth as a child, learning to track animals. The first time she saw a bear, massive and terrifying, and her father teaching her to back away slowly. Survival training in the military academy on Earth, learning to fight, to hunt, to kill if necessary. She felt Corvesh's shock at the violence in her memories. Earth was more brutal than he had imagined. The weather alone could kill. The animals were deadly. Even the plants were dangerous. Your world, he said, pulling back from her mind, is a nightmare. It's home, Hana said quietly. Corvesh was silent for a moment. Then, I see no deception in you. You are telling the truth about the nest. Then you'll do something? Rithon asked, his body flickering with hope. I will investigate personally. The headmaster turned toward the window. But first, Cadet Kim, I must ask you a question. When did you last check the ventilation system? Hana blinked. Sir? You are from a world of predators. You have instincts we have long since evolved past. You heard the scream. You found the blood. You discovered the nest. His glowing eyes fixed on her. What do your instincts tell you about the ventilation system? Hana closed her eyes and thought about the station layout. The ventilation system connected every room, every corridor. It was large enough for maintenance drones to move through, large enough for something else to move through too. It's how the creature travels, she said. It's in the walls. Yes, Corvesh said. And it has been there for quite some time. The emergency meeting was held in the secure command center, deep in the heart of Harmony 7. Hana had never been allowed here before. The room was filled with holographic displays showing every corner of the station, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Headmaster Corvesh floated at the head of the table. Around him sat the remaining instructors, security chiefs, and station administrators. Hana and Riathon stood near the back, observers rather than participants. Show them, Corvesh commanded. One of the security chiefs, a multi-eyed Observian, activated a hologram. It showed the maintenance sector, the nest, and detailed scans of the organic material on the walls. This, the security chief said, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence, is the biological signature of a void stalker. The room went silent. Hana saw several instructors physically recoil. One of them, a gaseous being in a containment suit, flickered with obvious fear. That's impossible, Instructor Phallax said, his metallic body rippling. Void stalkers are extinct. The last one was killed 300 years ago. Apparently not. The security chief pulled up more data. We found traces of its DNA in the ventilation system. It's been on the station for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. Rithon leaned close to Hana. What's a void stalker? He whispered. I don't know, she whispered back. Phallax heard them and turned. A void stalker is an apex predator from collapsed space regions. They can phase through solid matter, making them nearly impossible to contain. They hunt by sensing fear, which makes them more dangerous the more terrified you are. They're intelligent, patient, and worst of all, they grow stronger by feeding. How do you kill one? Hana asked. The room turned to look at her. Several aliens seemed shocked that she would even ask such a question. You don't, the security chief said. Void stalkers were never killed in direct combat. The only successful removals were done by evacuating entire stations and decompressing them, starving the creatures out. We can't evacuate, Corvesh said. There are 3,000 students on this station. The nearest safe harbor is a week away. We would lose hundreds in the evacuation alone. Then what do we do? Someone asked. Silence. No one had an answer. Hana raised her hand. Everyone stared at her like she was crazy. She probably was. Cadet Kim, Corvesh said. On Earth we hunt predators. Lions, bears, sharks. Things that want to eat us. We've been doing it for thousands of years. She stepped forward. I know I keep failing my tactical exams, but maybe this is a situation where my kind of thinking would work. Your kind of thinking? One of the administrators said, his tone dripping with disdain. You mean violence? I mean survival. Hana looked around the room. You're all thinking like prey, like things that run away. But humans don't run. We hunt back. Barbaric, someone muttered. Effective, Phallax countered. He turned to Hana. Explain. First, we need to understand its patterns. When does it hunt? Where? How does it choose victims? Then we set a trap, use bait, create a kill zone, force it into a position where it can't phase away. Hana could see them listening, actually listening, but we'd need weapons. Real ones, not stun guns. Absolutely not, the security chief said. Lethal weapons are forbidden on Academy grounds. Then everyone dies, Hana said flatly. You can't stun something that phases through matter. The argument went on for an hour. Finally, Corvesh made a decision. I am authorizing contact with Earth military. If they can provide tactical support and equipment, we will accept it. He looked at Hana. And Cadet Kim will lead the hunting team. Headmaster, she's a student, someone protested. She's a human, Corvesh replied, from a world where everything wants to kill you. And somehow her species became the dominant predator. If anyone knows how to fight a void stalker, it's her. 2 hours later, a human ship docked with the station. Wu Jin arrived with a tall, scarred man in military gear. He moved like a weapon, all controlled power and constant awareness. This is Taeyang Im, Wu Jin said, former Special Forces. He's here to help. Taeyang looked around the command center, taking in the aliens, the displays, the barely controlled panic. Then he looked at Hana and grinned. Heard you were failing your exams, he said in Korean. Heard you were retired, she shot back. Retirement is boring. He dropped a large case on the table and opened it. Inside were weapons. Real, lethal, beautiful weapons. Firearms, blades, explosives, and things Hana didn't even recognize. Thought you might need these. The aliens stared at the weapons like they were looking at nuclear bombs. These are illegal, the security chief said weakly. So is letting 3,000 kids die, Taeyang replied. Your choice, Corvesh made a gesture of approval. Teach us. For the next several hours, Taeyang and Hana trained a small team. Phalanx volunteered immediately, proving that he understood Deathworld thinking. Rithon joined too, though his crystalline body flickered with fear the whole time. A few more cadets and instructors signed up, each one brave enough to face the truth. They learned how to use the weapons, how to set traps, how to think like hunters instead of prey. It was exhausting and terrifying, but slowly they began to understand. The key, Taeyang explained, is to not be afraid. Voidstalkers hunt by fear. You show it you're scared, you're dead. You show it you're dangerous, you have a chance. How do we not be afraid? Rithon asked. You don't stop being afraid, Hana said. You use the fear. You let it make you sharper, faster. My people have a saying, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being scared and doing it anyway. That night they set their trap. They chose the training bay, a large open space with only 2 entrances. They rigged the ventilation ducts with sensors and explosives. They set up firing positions with overlapping fields of view. They placed bait in the center, a wounded Observian security officer, volunteering himself as the lure. Then they waited. An hour passed. 2. Hana's hands were steady on her rifle, a human weapon that felt more familiar than anything else on this station. Beside her, Rithon held a plasma caster, his crystalline body barely glowing to avoid giving away their position. It's not coming, Rithon whispered. It will, Hana said. Predators are patient, so are we. At exactly 3 hours and 14 minutes, the temperature dropped. Hana felt it before the sensors registered it. A cold that had nothing to do with the ventilation system. A cold that came from somewhere else, somewhere wrong. It's here, she whispered into her communicator. The Void Stalker phased through the far wall. Hana had seen pictures, but nothing prepared her for the reality. It was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with a body that seemed to shift and blur at the edges. Its form was vaguely humanoid but wrong, with too many limbs and eyes that glowed with hungry intelligence. When it moved, it left trails of darkness behind. Like reality itself was tearing. The bait officer whimpered. Good. The fear would draw it in. The creature stalked forward, its movements predatory and confident. It knew it was the apex here. It had killed 5 people already and no one had fought back, but that was about to change. Now, Hana commanded. The training bay exploded with light and sound. 10 different weapons opened fire from 5 different positions. Bullets, plasma bolts, and explosive rounds tore through the air. The Void Stalker screamed, a sound that made Hana's ears ring and her chest hurt. It tried to phase through the attack, but Taeyang had thought of that. The walls were lined with quantum disruptors, technology that prevented phase shifting. The creature was trapped. They hit it hard. Purple-black blood sprayed across the floor. The creature lunged at the nearest position, and Phalanx met it with a blade covered in some kind of energy field. The weapon cut deep and the Void Stalker screamed again, but it wasn't dead. It was learning. The creature adapted, moving faster, predicting their fire patterns. It took out 2 positions before they could adjust. One cadet died instantly. Another was badly wounded. Fall back, Hana shouted. Pattern Delta. They retreated in stages, maintaining fire, forcing the creature to chase them into a narrower corridor. The kill zone was collapsing, but they were still in control. The Void Stalker charged Hana directly. She held her ground, firing until her rifle was empty, then drew a blade and rolled aside at the last second. The creature's claws missed her by centimeters. Rethon hit it with a plasma bolt from the side. Taeyang threw an explosive that detonated against its back. Phalanx came in from above, his metallic body forming into a spear, and drove it into the creature's spine. The Void Stalker fell, twitching and bleeding. Is it dead? Rethon asked. Hana approached carefully, her blade ready. She'd hunted enough predators on Earth to know you never assumed they were down. Good instinct. The creature's eyes opened, and it lunged one final time. Hana drove her blade into its skull and held it there until the creature stopped moving. The training bay was silent except for heavy breathing and the crackle of damaged equipment. We did it, Rethon said, his body glowing bright with relief. We did, Hana agreed. Then the lights went out, and 3 more Void Stalkers phased through the walls. Chaos erupted in the training bay. The 3 new Void Stalkers were larger than the first, their bodies more solid, more real. They had been feeding longer, growing stronger. The one they had just killed was a scout, Hana realized. The others had been waiting to see how the prey would react. Now they knew. And they were hungry. Move, Taeyang shouted, grabbing the wounded cadet and hauling him toward the exit. Plasma fire lit up the darkness as the team retreated, firing blind at the massive shapes moving through the shadows. Hana was the last one out. She slammed the emergency seal button, and blast doors dropped with a heavy thud. Something hit the doors from the other side hard enough to make them buckle. They won't hold long, Phalanx said, his metallic body rippling with tension. We need a new plan. We need a miracle, someone muttered. They regrouped in the command center. Half the team was wounded. One was dead. They had used most of their weapons and explosives, and now there were 3 fully grown Void Stalkers hunting them. The holographic displays showed the creatures splitting up, moving through the station's ventilation system. They were searching, methodical and intelligent. They knew their prey was dangerous now. They would be more careful. Evacuation? One of the administrators suggested weakly. No time, Wu Jin said. He had joined them in the command center, his diplomatic mask gone, replaced by the hard face of a soldier. The nearest ship is 8 hours away. Life support is already damaged from the fight. We have maybe 2 hours before systems start failing. Then we're trapped, Rethon said. His crystalline body had turned gray with despair. No, Hana said. We're not trapped. They are. Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Corvesh asked. On Earth, when predators hunt in packs, they're strong. But they're also predictable. They separate, cover more ground, think they have the advantage. Hana pulled up the station schematic. We can't fight 3 at once, so we separate them further. Make them think they're hunting us. Then we ambush each one individually. That's insane, the security chief said. You want to be bait? I want to be a hunter pretending to be bait. Hana looked at her team. It's called an ambush predator tactic. Earth animals do it all the time. Act weak, draw in the hunter, then strike. Taeyang was nodding. It could work. But we'd need perfect timing and coordination. And trust, Phalanx added. We'd be splitting our forces. Do we have a choice? Hana asked. Silence. They all knew the answer. Corvesh made the decision. We try Cadet Kim's plan, but we evacuate all non-essential personnel first. Get the civilians to the safe zones and seal them in. The Void Stalkers want prey that fights, that fears. We give them what they want. The next hour was a blur of preparation. The station was divided into 3 kill zones, each one rigged with every trap, weapon, and surprise they could think of. The evacuation began, thousands of students and staff moving in orderly lines toward the reinforced safe zones deep in the station's core. Hana watched them go and felt a strange weight settle on her shoulders. A week ago, these people had mocked her, called her primitive and barbaric. Now their lives depended on her barbaric thinking. Ready? Taeyang asked. He was covered in weapons, his face painted with black camouflage paint. He looked like death itself. Ready, Hana replied. They split into 3 teams. Hana led Team 1 with Rithan and 2 other cadets. Taeyang took Team 2 with Wujin and several instructors. Phalanx commanded Team 3 with the remaining security officers. The plan was simple. Each team would create noise and movement to attract a Void Stalker, then lead it into a prepared kill zone. Once trapped, they would hit it with everything they had. Simple in theory. Deadly in practice. Hana's team took position in the residential sector. She had chosen this area carefully. Narrow corridors, lots of doors, multiple escape routes. A human environment designed for comfort but easily weaponized. How do we attract it? Rithan asked. His color was shifting nervously between blue and purple. We make ourselves scared, Hana said. Void Stalkers hunt by fear, so we give them fear. I don't have to fake that, one of the cadets muttered. Good, use it. Remember what Taeyang said? Fear makes you sharp. It keeps you alive. Hana activated her communicator. All teams, sound off. Team 2 in position, Taeyang's voice crackled. Team 3 ready, Phalanx confirmed. Beginning the hunt, Hana said. Good luck, everyone. She fired her weapon into the air 3 times. The sound echoed through the corridors loud and challenging. Then she waited. The temperature dropped first. Then the lights started flickering. Hana saw frost forming on the walls, saw her breath mist in the air. It's coming, she whispered. Positions. Her team scattered to their assigned spots. Hana stood in the center of the corridor, alone and apparently defenseless. The perfect bait. The Void Stalker phased through the wall 20 meters away. This one was massive, easily 4 meters tall with scars covering its shifting body. An old hunter, experienced and deadly. It saw Hana and paused. Its glowing eyes studied her, intelligent and calculating. It could sense something was wrong. This prey wasn't running, Hana smiled. Come on then. Let's see who's the better hunter. The creature charged. Hana ran, not in panic but with purpose, leading it exactly where she wanted. The Void Stalker followed, confident in its power. It had never lost a hunt. Why should this be different? She led it through 2 corridors, past 3 doorways and into the prepared kill zone. The moment she crossed the threshold, Rithan sealed the exits with blast doors. Quantum disruptors activated, preventing the creature from phasing away. The Void Stalker realized the trap too late. Now, Hana shouted. The walls exploded with gunfire. Her team had positioned themselves in hidden alcoves behind false panels, inside ventilation ducts. They hit the creature from 6 different angles, overwhelming its ability to track them all. But this one was experienced. It had survived for years, maybe decades. It roared and lashed out, its claws tearing through a wall and catching one of the cadets. The young alien screamed and went down. Hana felt rage building in her chest. These were her people now, her pack. You don't hurt the pack. She charged in close, too close for the creature to use its reach advantage. She drove her blade into its leg, twisted and rolled away before it could counter. Rithan hit it with plasma from above. Another cadet threw an explosive that detonated against its chest. The Void Stalker was bleeding, wounded, but still fighting. It grabbed for Hana and she barely dodged. Its claws caught her arm, tearing through her uniform and leaving deep cuts. Pain exploded through her, but she didn't stop moving. Weakness points, she shouted to her team. Eyes, joints, neck. Coordinated fire. They adapted, focusing their attacks on specific targets. The creature's left eye exploded from a plasma bolt. Its right knee shattered from focused gunfire. It fell, and Hana was there with her blade. She drove it into the creature's throat and held it there until the Void Stalker stopped thrashing. One down, she said into her communicator, breathing hard. Team 2, Team 3, status? Engaged. Taeyang's voice came back strained. This one's tough. Team 3 has ours trapped, Phalanx reported. Moving to kill phase. Hana let herself breathe. They were doing it. They were actually winning. Then the station's AI spoke, its voice calm and emotionless. Critical alert. Life support compromised. Oxygen reserves depleting. Estimated time to critical failure, 42 minutes, of course. Nothing was ever easy. Team 1 moving to assist Team 2, Hana said, already running. Her wounded arm was bleeding badly, but she ignored it. Pain was just information. She could deal with it later. They found Taeyang's team pinned down in the cargo bay. The Void Stalker had adapted to their tactics, using the large space to its advantage. It was phasing in and out of cargo containers, attacking from unexpected angles. Hana watched for 30 seconds, analyzing the pattern. Earth predators were predictable once you understood them. Hopefully, alien predators were too. Rethon, can you generate a bright light? Sustained pulse? Yes, but why? Just trust me. Hana turned to the others. When I give the signal, everyone close your eyes. Rethon pulses maximum brightness. The creature will be disoriented for maybe 2 seconds. We used those 2 seconds to end this. It was risky. 2 seconds wasn't much time, but it was all they had. Hana moved into position, making herself visible. The Void Stalker saw her and lunged. She waited, counting in her head. 3, 2, 1, now! She screamed. Rethon's body exploded with light, bright as a star, turning the cargo bay into midday. The Void Stalker recoiled, its phase ability disrupted by the sensory overload. Every weapon they had fired in that 2-second window. The creature didn't stand a chance. It fell, and this time it stayed down. 2 down, Tae-Yang said, grinning despite the blood on his face. 1 to go. They all moved as one unit, racing toward Team 3's position. They arrived to find Phalanx standing over the third Void Stalker's corpse, his metallic body covered in purple-black blood. 3 down, Phalanx said simply. We won. The cargo bay was silent except for heavy breathing and the drip of blood. They had done it. Against impossible odds, against creatures that had killed species far more advanced than humans, they had won. Life support status? Hana asked. The AI responded. Oxygen reserves at critical levels. 15 minutes remaining. They weren't done yet. The engineering bay was a disaster zone. The Void Stalkers had damaged critical systems during their hunt, and now the entire station was dying slowly. Sparks flew from broken panels, alarms blared, and the air was already getting thin. Can we fix it? Hana asked the engineering team, a group of exhausted technicians led by a 6-limbed Mechanian named Torval. Maybe. But it would take hours to do it properly, and we have 15 minutes. Torval's mechanical voice was flat with despair. We're dead. No, Hana said. We're not. Show me the damage. Torval pulled up schematics. The main oxygen generator was offline. The backup was destroyed, and the emergency reserves were almost empty. They needed to reroute power, replace damaged circuits, and restart the generator core. It was a week's worth of work compressed into minutes. On Earth, Hana said slowly, we have a saying, when you can't do it right, do it fast and fix it later. What's the absolute minimum we need to restart the system? Torval's 6 arms moved in what might have been a shrug. Bypass the safety protocols, manually restart the core, hope it doesn't explode. Will it work? Maybe. 60% chance. Better than 0. Hana looked at her team. They were exhausted, wounded, and running on nothing but adrenaline. But they were alive and they were fighters. Let's do this. What followed was controlled chaos. Hana coordinated teams assigning tasks based on abilities. Phalanx used his metallic body to conduct power around damaged sections. Rithon's crystalline form could withstand high temperatures, so he worked directly on the generator core. Tae-Yang and Wu-Jin handled the heavy lifting, moving equipment that should have required machines. Hana was everywhere, directing, encouraging, sometimes just physically holding damaged panels together while someone welded them. Her wounded arm was screaming with pain, but she ignored it. Pain was temporary. Death was permanent. 5 minutes, the AI announced. Faster, Hana shouted. They worked like a single organism, each person knowing their role, trusting the others. It wasn't the careful, methodical approach the Academy taught. It was rough, dangerous, and completely human. It was survival. Core is charging, Torval announced. Power building. 80%, 90, critical mass achieved. Generator online. The lights flickered and steadied. Vents hissed as fresh oxygen began flowing through the station. The temperature started rising back to normal levels. 2 minutes to spare, the AI said, as calm as ever. Life support restored to operational status. The engineering bay erupted in cheers. Aliens who had never raised their voices were shouting with joy. Rethon was glowing so bright he was hard to look at. Even Phalanx's normally stoic face was showing something that might have been a smile. Hana let herself collapse against a wall, finally allowing the exhaustion to hit her. They had done it. Against 3 Void Stalkers, against a dying station, against impossible odds, they had survived. Not bad for a failing student, Tae-Yang said, sitting down beside her. He looked as tired as she felt. I had good teachers, Hana replied. You were the teacher today. You taught all of us how to be hunters. Hana looked around at the mixed group of humans and aliens, all working together, all trusting each other. A week ago, they wouldn't have even talked to each other. Now they were a team. No, she said quietly. We taught each other. The next 3 days were spent in recovery and investigation. The dead were mourned with proper ceremonies from their various cultures. The wounded were treated in the medical bay, which was overflowing with patients. The station was slowly repaired, though some sections would take months to fully restore. The Void Stalkers were studied extensively. Scientists discovered they had come through a spatial anomaly near the station, a rare tear in space that had since closed. The creatures had been trapped here, unable to return home, slowly starving. That made them desperate and dangerous. On the 4th day, Hana was summoned to Headmaster Corvesh's office. She walked through the corridors of the academy, and something had changed. Students who once avoided her now nodded respectfully. Some even tried to talk to her, asking questions about Earth, about hunting, about how she stayed calm during the fight. She was still the only human cadet, but she wasn't alone anymore. Corvesh was waiting in his office, floating in his usual place by the window. The stars beyond looked peaceful, innocent, as if the last week had never happened. "Cadet Kim," he said. "Please sit." She sat, wincing slightly. Her arm was bandaged and healing, but it still hurt. "I have reviewed your tactical examinations," Corvesh began. "All of them. Every failed test, every wrong answer, every decision that we marked as inappropriate." Hana's stomach sank. Was she being expelled after all? "And I have come to a conclusion." Corvesh's glowing eyes fixed on her. "You are right, sir. Your answers were not wrong. They were simply correct for a different situation, a situation we had forgotten could exist." He pulled up her exams on a holographic display. Question: unknown ship approaches, doesn't respond to hails. Your answer: establish defensive position, prepare for combat. We marked it wrong. But during the Void Stalker incident, that exact thinking saved the station. "I don't understand," Hana said. "For 6,000 years, we have had peace. We have forgotten what it means to face a true threat. We have evolved away from violence, from aggression, from the very instincts that kept our ancestors alive." Corvesh gestured at the stars. "But the universe is not always peaceful. Sometimes you need someone who remembers how to fight. Someone from a world where everything wants to kill you, and you became the dominant species anyway." He pulled up more exams, more questions. More of her failed answers. Aggressive first contact protocols. Preemptive defensive positions. Shoot first, ask questions later. We called these answers barbaric. But they're not. They're survival strategies from a species that had to fight for every day of existence. "So I'm not being expelled?" Hana asked carefully. "Expelled? No, Cadet Kim, you're being promoted." Hana blinked. "What?" "The Galactic Peacekeepers have operated on a single philosophy for thousands of years. Peace through diplomacy. But you have shown us that sometimes peace requires a different kind of strength. The strength to fight when necessary. The strength to make hard decisions. The strength to be dangerous so others don't have to be." Corvesh waved his hand and a new hologram appeared. It was a course listing, brand new, not in the Academy catalog. "Deathworld Tactical Scenarios," Hana read aloud. "Instructor: Hana Kim. You will teach the next generation of peacekeepers what we have forgotten. How to think like a predator. How to hunt. How to survive when all the rules break down." Corvesh's voice was gentle but firm. "You will teach them to be dangerous." "I'm 19 years old," Hana said. "I've been here for 3 months. I'm not qualified to teach. You survived 3 Void Stalkers. You led a team of species who had never fought before and turned them into hunters. You saved 3,000 lives using tactics we would have called primitive a week ago." Corvesh leaned forward. "You are the most qualified person in this entire station." Hana sat in silence, trying to process what she was hearing. A week ago, she was failing out of the academy. Now she was being asked to teach. "What about my exams?" she asked. "Consider them passed, retroactively. All of them." Corvesh actually sounded amused. "Your answers were correct. We were just asking the wrong questions." 2 weeks later, Hana stood in front of her first class. 20 cadets representing 15 different species, all looking at her with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. In the back row, she spotted Rithan, his crystalline body glowing with friendly blue light. He had voluntarily signed up for her course. "Good morning," Hana said, her voice steady. "Welcome to Deathworld Tactical Scenarios. In this class, you're going to learn things that might seem wrong or brutal or excessive. You're going to learn how to think like a predator instead of prey. You're going to learn that sometimes the right answer is the one that keeps you breathing. She pulled up a familiar question on the holographic display, the same one from her first failed exam. An unknown ship approaches. They don't respond to communication. What do you do? A young cadet raised his hand. Withdraw to safe distance and broadcast friendship messages? That's the Academy answer, Hana said. Now let me tell you the Deathworld answer. She smiled, remembering everything she had been through. You charge your weapons. You establish defensive position. You demand identification. And if they don't comply, you make it very clear that you're not easy prey. She saw shocked faces. Some cadets looked scandalized. Others looked thoughtful. I know what you're thinking, Hana continued. That sounds aggressive. That sounds like starting a fight. But here's what I learned on Earth and what the Void Stalkers taught me. Predators respect strength. They hunt the weak. If you show them you're dangerous, they look for easier prey. She walked among the desks, meeting each cadet's eyes. This class isn't about making you violent. It's about making you survivors. It's about giving you the tools to think differently when everything goes wrong. Because the universe isn't always friendly. Sometimes it's hostile. Sometimes it wants to eat you. And when that happens, you need to know how to fight back. A cadet in the front row raised her hand. But what about peace? What about diplomacy? Diplomacy is wonderful, Hana said. It should always be your first choice. But it shouldn't be your only choice. Real peace comes from being strong enough that no one wants to fight you. Being kind is important. But so is being dangerous. She returned to the front of the class and pulled up the course syllabus. Over the next semester, we're going to cover hunting tactics, ambush strategies, predator psychology, survival scenarios, and emergency combat protocols. You're going to learn things your species forgot centuries ago. You're going to remember what it means to be dangerous. She paused, looking at all of them. My people have a saying. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Be kind, be diplomatic, be peaceful. But never forget that you can be dangerous if you need to be. That's what I'm going to teach you. How to be dangerous so others don't have to be. The class was silent for a moment. Then Rethon started a slow clap. Others joined in until the entire room was applauding. Hana felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them away. A week ago she was failing. Now she was teaching. Not despite being from a death world, but because of it. All right, she said when the applause died down. Let's begin. First lesson, everything wants to kill you. Now let's talk about what my people call hunting. Outside the window, the stars looked the same as always. Peaceful, beautiful, infinite. But Hana knew better now. The universe was dangerous. It was deadly. And humanity had learned to be deadlier. That was worth teaching.